each and every phase of our cell cycle. So as I've said, the interphase is divided into 3 stages: G1, S and G2, and here the M phase is also divided into 2 stages: the mitosis, or in fact it can be mitosis or meiosis, which is the actual division stage, and the cytokinesis, where the cell will divide. So all these phases are being seen in a cell cycle. So first let us start with G1. Now G1 stage is also called as gap phase 1, or in some books it is also given as growth phase. So what happens in this G1? Well, first of all, in G1 stage, it is a newborn daughter cell which is very active metabolically. So the cell is very active metabolically. It is carrying out all the major metabolic processes. So this cell, which is a newborn small cell, will grow in its size and reach its maximum potential. Whatever maximum size the cell is supposed to have, that maximum size it will get it in this G1 stage. Okay, at the same time, all major cell components, like we can say ATP, all major cell components like proteins, RNA, ATPs, everything, all these major cell components which are necessary for the cell to grow, develop and function as an adult cell, all of them are forming in the G1 stage. Now many of you can ask, ma'am, how long will this G1 stage last? Now here is the thing. The length of the G1 stage depends on the type of the cell. Let us say if I have cells which frequently divide. The cells which frequently divide, for them you have a very short G1 stage. But cells which do not divide frequently, non-frequently dividing cells, though for them you will have a longer G1 stage. Okay, now after this, some cells will proceed into the next stage, which is the actual DNA synthesis stage. But some cells, they take an exit and enter into another stage, which I am adding here, called as G0 stage. So some cells, they exit G1 stage and enter into the next stage, which is called as the G0 stage. So what is this G0? The G0 stage is also called as the quiescent stage. And only those cells which are non-dividing, the non-dividing cells, in the previous section I've told you that few cells, they don't divide, they will just reach their adult stage, do their function and die. So those cells which are non-dividing, they enter the quiescent stage, they remain like that, and then when their work is done, when their lifespan is over, they will die. So what are those cells which enter into the quiescent stage? Well, I'm writing the examples here. The cells that enter into the quiescent stage are heart cell, that is your cardiac cell, and your nerve cells. Both of them, they do not divide. If, let us say, by an injury an existing cell dies, it is replaced by another cell, but the cell will not divide on its own. So the only time that these cells will divide is to replace a dead or a injured cell. So we can say that they are those non-frequent dividers, we can say. Okay, now if it's a frequently dividing cell, then it enters into the next stage called as the S stage or the synthesis stage. So the S phase is called as synthesis phase. Now, this is a very, very important phase, because in this phase, the DNA replication happens. Now, we know that the DNA is the master control of the cell. Everything that is supposed to happen in the cell, it is encrypted in the DNA. DNA takes care of everything. So, if you don't replicate the DNA, what happens? Your daughter cells will get half of it. They will divide, and like that, as generations proceed and each daughter cell will receive half of the parental DNA, on one fine day you will not have any more DNA to give to daughter cells. So the DNA, the cell replicates the DNA, that is, it makes copies of its own genetic material so that it is distributed equally to the daughter cells. It is distributed. The main purpose is distribution, equal distribution to the daughter cells, and that is carried out by the cell cycle by this step, that is DNA replication. Now, one thing you have to remember very clearly during DNA replication, and that is that only the DNA amount doubles. Only the DNA amount doubles, not the chromosome number. Now, what is this? I'll explain this in detail in the coming videos, but just remember, chromosome number will remain the same, only the amount of DNA doubles. That means, let us say if I have something like in the initial amount of DNA is 2C. By the time I finish SC, my total amount of DNA will become into 4C. Okay, but let us say if I have 8 chromosomes, then even after I finish the S phase, the number of chromosomes will remain the same. Now, why this is, I'll explain it in the next coming videos, where we are going to talk about chromosomes, chromatids and all that, and there I'll clearly give you an explanation. But here just remember that only the DNA amount doubles, not the chromosome number. The chromosome number will remain constant in the S phase. Now, another thing that happens in the S phase that is very specific for animal cells, so I'm using another color to write it, that is the duplication of centriole. Now, in the cell chapter, you've seen that centrioles are present in the animal cells and they help in the formation of the spindle fibers for cell division. So, those centriole duplication also starts in the synthesis stage. Okay. Now, coming to the next stage is called as the G2 stage or the gap 2 stage. This one. So, second stage is gap 2 or growth 2 stage. Now, in this stage, what happens is the cell organelles will duplicate. So, the cell organelles, they duplicate. So, what are the cell organelles you are talking about? All the major essential cell organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast, Golgi bodies, all of them will duplicate. And the proteins and enzymes for division, for cell division, whatever proteins, whatever enzymes that you require to carry on a proper cell division process, they are also synthesized in this stage. So, because of all this duplication, DNA duplication, cell organelle duplication, excess production of proteins and enzymes, the particular cell reaches its maximum size. The cell reaches the maximum size, growth size in the G2 phase. Okay, so these are the various stages of the interphase. Then once everything is ready, the cell enters into the division stage, which is mitosis or meiosis based on the type of division it wants. Either it proceeds into mitotic division or meiotic division. That is, after that the cell walls and the cell cytoplasm, everything will divide, and finally you will have the daughter cells. So this is our cell cycle.
For more content, like, share and subscribe to www.i-win.in.